So with some back of the napkin math, I figure I have shared some 1.3 million words from the pulpit of this congregation. And that's just the sermons. I've said quite a few other things along the way in other formats. One naturally wonders, after writing and speaking so many words, what difference, if any, they have made. Across these last 16 years, I have had the blessing of many of you routinely telling me what those words have meant to you. What I have heard back hasn't always been what I expected. Sometimes what I've heard wasn't in any way connected to what I thought I was saying. And that is okay. That is actually more than okay. The work of the pulpit is to open again and again a conversation that each of us has with the preacher and with the content of the sermon. But more importantly, to open a conversation we have with ourselves and with the sacred or the holy, with life or the spirit of life, with the divine known to us by many names, yet beyond all naming. For the record, Beth, once and for all, I don't actually read your minds or your journals before writing my sermons. But I am a student of human nature and of the human condition, and I have endeavored across these last 16 years to listen deeply to your hopes and your heartaches and to reflect back to you in what so often feels to me a meager offering, something that will help, something that will serve life, something that will encourage or inspire you to live more deeply into alignment with your values and your sense of where life is calling you. I have never taken for granted the privilege of this part of my role. But as I deliver this last sermon to you as your senior minister, I've been reflecting on just what it is that I have been trying to get across to you, what I have been trying to say to you in various and varied ways for so long. As you've surely heard me and others say, and probably thought to yourselves, every minister really only has one or two sermons in them. We just keep rewriting the sermons, putting a different slant on the theme, coming at it once again, this time from a somewhat different angle. And so what I have for you this morning are the highlights, some key points I've come through and hope I've tried to come through with you, and that I hope will remain with you long after I'm gone. My first sermon with you as your new minister took place on September 9th, 2007. It was water communion, and I preached a sermon titled, "The Journey is the Destination." It was a sermon about wanderlust, about the call to travel and to see the world. It was a sermon about how seeing another corner of the world helps us to better appreciate home once we return. And it was a sermon about appreciating the beauty already abundant at our feet, an invitation to connect to the place where we already are. The point was that life isn't so much about getting to some other place, as much as it is about making the most of the trip itself. That journey through life is actually our destination. 16 years after all of the time and distance we have traveled together, I stand here today to say that I still believe the truth of what I said all those years ago, only that I believe it even more deeply. Looking back now, it is clearer than ever that the journey was the destination, and the journey is all that there actually is. This is something, of course, to remember, especially for a congregation quite literally on the move, a congregation not exactly here or there in terms of physical space or even a building, a congregation in a liminal time of transition with its ministers. But amid the ebb and flow of all of that change, it is the journey through the day to day that eventually adds up to something we later look back on, something that we can see only with some distance and perspective, that causes us to finally appreciate that the journey is and was all there is. I feel that so deeply now as our paths diverge. It was the life lived in the day-to-day and the week-to-week that has mattered as much or more than where we have gotten to at this point. Which is to say that one of my key messages is that the company we keep and the way we keep company with others matters. In that first sermon I preached, some of you may recall, the strange but true tale of Lawn Chair Larry. Larry always wanted to fly. He had always hoped to become a pilot, but with poor eyesight, he was left only to watch airplanes flying over his backyard. And then one day he had something of a brainstorm. He purchased 45 weather balloons, and in his backyard, with a rope, he anchored his lawn chair to his truck, attached the balloons, and filled them up with helium. He packed himself a lunch, grabbed a 6-pack of beer and a pellet gun, and he strapped himself in, planning to glide lazily above his neighborhood for the afternoon. But when Larry cut the cord, he did not float up to the height of 10 meters as he had expected. Instead, he shot straight up almost 5,000 meters. When he finally leveled off, he feared that using that pellet gun to pop the balloons at that height would be far too dangerous. So he drifted cold and frightened for 14 hours. And that's when things really began to go out of control. Larry sailed into the flight path of Los Angeles International Airport. This is all a true story. An airline pilot spotted him and radioed the control tower to report that there was up there a guy with a gun floating along in a lawn chair. The airport swung into high alert. A helicopter was scrambled to investigate. Once they decided that Larry wasn't actually a threat, his rescuers had to deal with the fact that he was being carried steadily out to sea on an offshore breeze. Now, apparently, rescuing a makeshift hot air balloon with a helicopter over the ocean is no easy feat. Every time the helicopter approached, the draft of the blades would just push Larry farther away. Eventually, the helicopter hovered above the balloon and dropped down a rescue line that allowed Larry to be towed back to safety. As he touched down, Larry was arrested and led away in handcuffs for violating federal airspace. When asked by a reporter why he had done it, Larry stopped and turned and said, "Because you can't just sit around." I thought we might need a laugh today. There may be many meanings to take from this story, but the one that speaks to me most strongly today is that we ultimately and always journey with others. Larry certainly didn't think that when he bought those weather balloons. He didn't think that when he strapped himself in with his beer and then cut the cord. And he certainly didn't feel it when he found himself so very alone, drifting amongst the clouds. But help came, help he so desperately needed. Larry was rescued by good people just doing their jobs who probably thought, "What has happened to my day?" And through their help, he may have recognized the truth of those poetic words of Maya Angelou. "Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering, the wind is gonna blow. The human race is suffering, and I can hear the moan, 'cause nobody but nobody can make it out here alone." She was right. In this beautiful, bewildering world of ours, we do indeed need one another. Though we often struggle to realize it, struggle to accept it, and struggle to act on it. which points to another of my key messages across the years. We live in a radically interdependent world, and we better, if we are to survive, begin acting like it. I can think of no more relevant example of this hard fact, which Lynn has already lifted up, than to invite us to reflect on the air that we have been breathing in recent days. Air scented with the thick smoke of fires burning up ancient forests hundreds of kilometers away. Though there are billionaires building private bunkers in New Zealand, and one in particular obsessed with colonizing Mars, there is no real or meaningful escape from the challenges of life on this planet. There is no going it alone. What touches the life of one of us affects us all. Which means that we must tend to the needs of our neighbors, that we must strengthen the fabric of community, building bridges of understanding across human differences, and doing all that we can to foster trust and understanding through acts of kindness and lives lived with compassion. This involves the work of healing and restoration, of truth-telling and reconciliation, of widening our hearts to hold the whole human family in all of its splendor and in all of its complexity. This is a tall order, and it is a noble calling. And not all of the work belongs to everyone all of the time. In those haunting prophetic words from the Talmud, words that Lynn has so beautifully set to music, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Which brings me to this place, this little loving laboratory of the human spirit, this place where you come together to journey, to do the work of justice and mercy, to practice the arts of humility and compassion and discernment, to grapple with the ways that you are called to serve and what that means for your life. We are living through times of enormous upheaval in the wider world and times of significant change within this beloved community of memory and hope. There are many beyond this congregation that would, by argument or by indifference, claim that a community such as this adds little value to our modern world. I could not disagree more. You might think that I would, of course, say that given that I poured a significant chunk of my life into this place that I so dearly love. But I believe in the power of community. My life, for one, has been saved by that power. When I have found encouragement and inspiration to carry on, when I have found compassion and understanding when I have felt alone, when I did not know how to make sense of a world that often makes so little sense. I know I am not the only one for whom this is true. Many of you have said the same to me. All of the voices we heard on the video said as much, each in their own way. Which is to say that this community, this place, and all that it is and all that it aspires to be matters. It matters to those gathered online and in person, and it matters beyond the literal and virtual walls of this sanctuary to people of every walk of life in this glorious but hurting world of ours. So as my time as your senior minister comes to a close, I charge you as you go forward to honor the beauty of the earth and to protect the delicate sacred web of life that holds us all. I charge you to love and to serve life, to savor the very gift of your being, of being alive, and to give thanks by dedicating yourself in service to something beyond yourselves. I charge you to seek to understand more than you now know, to bow before the mysteries and the wonders of this life, to move through this world with compassion, with humility, and with grace. And in all things, to learn to love better with each and every day. For that is what it means to be alive. It is to me the very purpose of our lives. It is the deepest meaning of life that I think is to be found. To know that we are all part of a story billions of years in the making, and that we, for a shining, magnificent moment, get to play our part in eternity, to help the universe, the cosmos, all that is known and unknown in the vastness of all time and space, to be fully alive and to be wholly awake, to be conscious for the universe, as we understand what it means to be here, to be human, to live and love boldly, as we revel and bask in the wonder and the glory of it all. So to this boundless bounty of life that is within us and between us and beyond us, may we always and emphatically sing. Amen.